From DSN's Wawa Studios, this is the Down and Distance Preseason Special.
What's going on, sports fans? Welcome into Down and Distance, the preseason special for the 2025 season. Kayla Santiago with you here, and we have a ton to get to tonight, from our game of the night to power rankings and so much more action on the gridiron. But first, we take a trip up to Stevensville, where we see the Kent Island Buccaneers as they are preparing for the season ahead. We now go inside the huddle of Kent Island with DSN's Ian Nicholas.
If you've been a part of Kent Island football practice the last 2 decades, you've definitely heard Coach Tim Goodrich say, "Go, defensive walkthrough," where the field quickly becomes the coordinator's classroom.
We stone our man, we have dual gap responsibility. We must get a piece of the tight end. If your gap, your single gap responsibility, he's in the backside B.
I've been doing this a long time. After Coach Sofanowski left, there was an opening, and I love being a defensive coordinator.
After passing up on the opportunity to be Buccaneers head coach in 2024, the chance presented itself again late this offseason when Zach Davis left for the VP job at Queen Anne's County. In June, Goodrich became interim head coach.
The staff would stay together, and there really wouldn't be any change from what we had last year other than Coach Davis. So just cohesiveness, keeping us together, giving these kids the best senior year that we can give them.
3 years, 3 new coaches. It's not ideal, but teaches us to adapt, teaches us to face new challenges. Honestly, I couldn't be more happy with the coach that we have this year. Goodrich's been around a long time, tough on the edges, but once you get to know him, he's a really nice guy.
Me and Coach Goodrich go way back since my freshman year. You know, he's always believed in me through defense because he's always put me in front of, seniors because of my talent. So I've always loved him, and me and him have a great bond.
The conversation was that I get them through the season, and then in the fall we'll revisit where we are and open it up and see what happens after that. It's a great job. I mean, this is I don't think they'll have any problem getting qualified applicants in the fall. Am I one of them? I don't know that answer. We'll see how it goes.
As Kent Island's defensive coordinator of 16 years, Coach Goodrich only had to worry about his side of the ball. Now he has to survey the whole team, especially the fiery quarterback competition that's coming down to the wire.
Growing up, I've had both. I've had Ryan Brzezinski and Trace Galapska. They're both very good quarterbacks. It's definitely still up there for the starting spot, but they're both very talented. I wouldn't want to lean to each other's side, but I love them both very equally.
Whoever's under center for Kent Island is getting thrown in the deep end on September 5th when the Buccaneers face a 10-win CSD team from a year ago. Reporting from Stevensville for DSN, I'm Ian Nicholas.
Now we're going to switch things over to the Henlopen Conference, and we head right up the road to the town too big for one state. It's those Del Mar Wildcats. The Wildcats will be a young team this season, but head coach David Hearn believes his squad is learning fast and improving every single day. Here is DSN's Darren Wallace with a look inside the huddle of the Del Mar Wildcats.
2024 was a success for the Del Mar Wildcats. But in football, what matters most is what you've done lately. That means the Wildcats will have to leave last year in the past, gear up for a new challenge. Head coach David Hearn believes that although this team is younger and having to improve on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't mean that what they did a year ago, going 9-1, changes the expectations in 2025.
Well, that's the goal. We're not going to let them think any other way. And so the idea isn't really records or what we'll finish by the end of the year. Right now, it's learning each play, learning each series that we're putting in, and the defense, and it's just step by step right now.
Hearn says the 20 graduated seniors is the most he's ever dealt with in his time as head coach. While this year's team is young, they're learning fast.
We were talking about how much they had improved Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Monday looked like we've never played. And each of the little drills have improved a lot. If it's just hitting the sled, that looked different by the second time we did it. If it's just agility drills, that looked better each day we've done it. So with an inexperienced team comes fast improvement.
Being a young team also means leaning on the experienced players you do have, meaning a lot will fall on the shoulders of the team's 3 senior captains. But it's a challenge they're taking on fearlessly.
It's a lot of young talent here, so we got to teach them a lot since they're coming from like lower grades and stuff. So us captains, we got to be on the A game.
I mean, we had some great captains last year, and they led by example really well, so we just try to replicate that, and they were, pretty much like that.
And I've just tried to put on the things that past captains have said to me and just say to them so they understand the things that I know. All of us got to be one unit.
And although nothing is guaranteed, Coach Hearn says the one certainty for this season, getting better every single week.
Right now, it's just you can see them eager to try to execute what you're showing them. We'll start fitting that together as a team. So far, it's a lot of individual work here, individual work there, small group work, and so it's trying to put that together as a unit, and that's going to come more this week.
Reporting from Del Mar High School, I'm Darren Wallace for DSN.
And for the final team to cover in our Inside the Huddle series, we head to the VA part of Delmarva. This team feels like a determined squad with a mindset that they can compete with any squad on the peninsula. DSN's Tyler Aiken went to Oak Hall, Virginia to get inside the huddle of the Arcadia Firebirds.
Arcadia football had a tough season last year. The Firebirds went 2-8 and had a coaching change in the middle of the season. Mike Terrell took over as the interim head coach, but now it's officially his team. The transition has been challenging, but successful.
Really just getting everybody on the same page. So we run pretty intricate offense. We also have a new defensive coordinator. So even though we have a number of coaches that have been here, we're in different roles this year. So that's been it. So us coaches meshing, I feel like we're already there. It's just a matter of getting the kids to buy in, which I believe we have.
And under the leadership of Coach Terrell, the Firebirds are on the same page entering the season, and their message for opposing teams is very clear.
We're not the same team. We're just we're faster, we're bigger. The whole program has changed. I want to be able to show them that we're not like the old Arcadia we used to be. We're not low hype. We got more hype this year. We got more everything this year, and I feel like that's just going to knock them in the face with it.
It's a different team, whole different team. We're not the same team that we were last year. It's going to be whole different, way different.
I want to show that we can actually do something, that we can actually win. For a while, we were the laughing stock of the schools for a while, just because Nandua last year, they went, I think it was 2-8 and everything like that, and then we lost against them, and it hurt, but it's just we need to prove this year that we know what we're doing and that we can win games.
Folks, this isn't the same old Firebirds. Reporting from Arcadia High School, I'm Tyler Aiken, DSN.
These are a few of the teams we wanted to preview for now, but we'll have plenty more coming your way after the break. When we come back, we'll discuss all of the major changes in the sport on Delmarva. You won't want to miss it.
Welcome back to Down and Distance.
Welcome back, football fans. Let's take a look at some of the key changes in the offseason from the Henlopen Conference as I welcome in DSN's Tyler Aiken to the set. Now, Tyler, what are the major changes in the Henlopen Conference this year?
Well, I think you have to start with Chip Knapp as he moves down Route 1 to Lewis, where he takes over Cape Henlopen. And he takes over for Mike Frederick, who steps down after 3 seasons at the helm of the Vikings. In his first 2 seasons with Dover, Knapp took his team to the DIAA playoffs, including a state finals appearance in 2023 before falling to Smyrna. He finishes his Dover coaching career with a 24-13 overall record as he looks for a fresh start with rising junior quarterback Jamison Tingle under center.
And speaking of those Dover Senators, a familiar face returns to the helm of the football program as Maurice Polk is out and Rudy Simonetti is in.
Simonetti coached the Senators from 2016 to 2021, where he went 22-25 and held 3 winning seasons. In 2024, Dover finished 3-6 as Simonetti looks to bring them back to glory and contend in the first state once again.
But not too far down the road, we have former Dells State coach Rod Milstead, who takes over for Jed Bell as the new head coach of the Milford Buccaneers.
Bell made 2 Delaware State Finals appearances with Woodbridge before he coached the Bucs to a 10-10 record over the past 2 years. Meanwhile, Rod Milstead looks for a fresh start of his own after a disappointing exit from DSU following 2 one-win seasons. But he looks to bring his college coaching experience to a Milford team that returns most of its starters.
And of course, last but not least, the Seaford Blue Jays entering a new chapter in their football program, hiring Glenn Phillips Jr. this past March.
Phillips brings over 20 years of experience to the Jays coaching staff at Laurel and Parkside. He began as an assistant from 2001 to 2011 before taking over as head coach from 2014 to 2018. He has also been named DFCA Division II Coach of the Year multiple times throughout his lengthy career.
That he has. Now, he also had some big changes over in the Bayside Conference, too. We talked about teams like James M. Bennett, of course, losing Zakai Small to graduation, Stephen Decatur losing David Chandler, who is now at Vanderbilt. But what are some of the bigger changes that have transpired in the last few months? Tyler, how will these teams fare out heading into this season?
Well, our first big change amongst our Bayside teams is the head coaching position over in Stevensville. Longtime defensive coordinator Tim Goodrich has been promoted to interim head coach for Kent Island, and Goodrich has plenty of experience with Kent Island, taking the defense by the reins for over a decade, and should be interesting with a Buck squad that returns most of its starters, which we'll get into further in the show. But the Bucks open up their season with a trip to Cambridge to take on the Vikings.
And our next big Bayside change is over in Snow Hill, where head coach Raheem Hammond stepped down after 5 seasons with the Eagles.
Coach Hammond helped the Eagles secure back-to-back winning seasons, helped launch a JV program, and finished in the top 20 1A schools in Maryland. He also led his defense to allow fewer than 300 points for the first time in over half a decade. And Christopher Miles takes his spot, coming over from Nandua, where he started as the receivers coach all the way back in 1996. After becoming the head coach in 2012, Miles led Nandua to their first winning season in 6 years and coached 5 1,000-yard rushers while at the helm. He became the assistant coach at Snow Hill following the 2023-24 season.
Now, Tyler, let's talk about the changes North Carolina made at the helm to their football program.
Midway through last season, North Carolina dismissed Nick McMorris from his duties, and they named Heath Wilkins as interim coach. They chose to stick with him moving forward. The Bulldogs went 9-2 in 2023, had their 10th winning season over a span of 12 years, but then 1 year later, Nick McMorris out as head coach after an 0-5 start in just his second season at the helm of the program. The Bulldogs look for a fresh start with Coach Wilkins in his first full season at the helm of the program.
But coaching changes aren't the only major switches that we've had on the peninsula. Let's talk about some of our teams that have changed classes as well. We've had some teams move up, and we've also had some squads move down a class. We start over in the Bayside Conference. And Tyler, what would you say one of the biggest class changes is going into 2025?
I mean, you absolutely have to start with the two-time defending 2A state champs in the Stephen Decatur Seahawks. They make the move up to 3A after being down in 2A. And this is a Seahawks squad that is riding a 28-game winning streak, not losing a game since the 2022 state semifinals. You've got key players such as Vernon DeShields, along with starting quarterback and Sacred Heart University commit Johnny Hobgood returning. They will not be afraid to rise up to the challenge of 3A.
I am excited to see that. I was expecting it. Back-to-back champs, probably going to happen for those Seahawks, but they will do well in 3A as well. Moving on to our next 2A team that makes the jump to 3A, and that is right here in Salisbury. James M. Bennett returns to the 3A after spending the past 3 seasons in 2A.
The Clippers notched wins from Washington, North Carolina, and crosstown rival Parkside. But Bennett finished their 2024 campaign with a 3-6 record, including a first-round exit to Kent Island. Despite losing 2A star in Zakai Smullen, the Clippers do bring back key starters in Jamarion Stevens, rising sophomore running back Elijah Parks, and DeLeon Ogaro, who can go up to get the one-on-one passes.
Now that we've covered the teams that made the jump up to 3A, let's take a look at those who moved down from 2A to 2A/1A. Tyler, what's one team that stands out to you the most here?
I think it has to be the Queen Anne's County Lions for me, Kayla. They're the first of 3 squads that go from 2A/1A from 2A. They continue to build around rising junior Jadarion Flash Thompson, who did it all for the Lions last year, from slinging the rock, using his legs, causing turnovers on the defensive side of the football. And they also have returning star Rodney Smith on the defensive side, leading a young Lions secondary looking to improve on last year's disappointing exit.
But not too far down the road, our next team making the move to 2A, 1A, and that's QAC's rival in the Kent Island Buccaneers.
Kent Island looking to build on their 6-3 regular season finish from last season, but the Bucs fell to Michael O'Connor and the Eastern Warriors in the region semifinals, 28-21. But the strong defense of the Bucs is still here and in business. You got the front seven being led by Jackson Hess and Jeremiah Bounds. Last year, Hess was just 1 yard shy of 1,000 yards on the ground, but he's just as strong on the other side as a linebacker, recording 37 total tackles, 2 interceptions, and in case that wasn't enough, you've got defensive lineman Jeremiah Bounds causing trouble in the trenches. The rising senior led the Bucs in total tackles and tackles for loss. Good luck trying to move the ball against this front seven.
Moving to our last team in the Bayside, moving down to 2A, 1A, and that is the Easton Warriors, who defeated Kent Island in the playoffs. Tyler, what stands out to you most about this move for Easton?
Well, just like Kent Island, it's got to be their defense. The Warriors return every single starter on that side of the ball, and quite frankly, most of those guys who effectively played both sides of the ball. Losing Mikey O'Connor and Chase Robb is huge because they made up such a big chunk of the offense, but Dustin Blue will pick up a bigger role as a returning senior. Last year, he put up 640 yards on the ground and 8 scores. Jordan Horsey is another big piece who's here to stay for a while. As a sophomore, Horsey recorded 70 total tackles, with 2 of those for a loss. The defense may be in good hands, but Brady Wall will have a lot to prove on the offensive side of things.
That just about does it for our Bayside teams that have reclassed, but let's talk about those squads that have moved around in the first state. Tyler, what are some of the most notable changes that stand out to you?
Well, our first team comes out of Dagsboro, and that's the defending 1A state champ, Indian River. The Indians make the move up to 2A, coming off a thrilling 47-45 state title victory over Tatnall, and IR returns most of its starters from last year, hoping to pick up where they left off. Starting QB, Dylan Grease is looking to build off his junior year, where he threw for 24 total touchdowns, and despite losing Darnell Stokes, Davion Handy is ready for a bigger role as a junior. He ran for 14 touchdowns, had 990 yards on the ground, and you also have to watch out for the versatility of Darnell Stokes, who had over 1,200 yards from scrimmage. These Indians are hungry for new challenges and another state title run at a higher level this time.
And speaking of the 1A runner-ups, Tatnall is following in Indian River's footsteps and moving up to 2A.
Tatnall failed to repeat as back-to-back champs, but the return of starting quarterback Quinn Deviere keeps them in a good spot to get back to the state title game. As a junior, he threw 30 touchdowns in almost 2,500 yards, but the Hornets do lose most of their receiving core, such as Chris Gordon, who put up 1,000 yards, and Jude Maycoyle, who led the team in receiving touchdowns. So this is something to watch out for with a team that looks to contend in 2A, with Caravel reclassing up to 3A.
That they do, but our last Delaware team to move up to 2A is another squad that fell to Indian River in their state title run, and that is the Polytech Panthers. Poly fell to Indian River twice in the regular season, and then again after a thrilling finish with the 1A state semifinals.
Polytech out for revenge, but the Panthers lose a big chunk of their squad. They had 22 seniors depart from the team, so Poly looks to rebuild and make another playoff run with a young core. With the 2A defending champions in the Caravel Buccaneers departing and moving to 3A, Poly is out for revenge, and the championship window is wide open to compete with the Indians and Tatnall.
Tyler, thank you so much. Definitely a lot of changes all across the peninsula. Now, when we return, we'll preview our game of the night from both sides, including inputs from each head coach. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.
Welcome back to Down and Distance.
Welcome back to the Down and Distance preseason special, sports fans. It is now time for our game of the night preview, and I welcome into the DSN studios Ian Nicholas. Now we have to break down our game of the night. And tonight's game features the Laurel Bulldogs and the Arcadia Firebirds in this cross-state battle between Delaware and Virginia. Ian, we're going to start off with the visiting team. What should we expect to see from the Bulldogs heading into this matchup?
Well, a lot different if you caught the Bulldogs at all last year, because they graduated over a dozen seniors, Kayla. but Laurel's top returner should have been a big man in the trenches, that being Joseph Baynard, who is District 3's co-lineman of the year, but the senior actually transferred up to Caesar Rodney near Dover, so I'd say the top dogs left, pun fully intended. Our receiver Khalid Burton and DB Shakai Parker had the chance to catch them match up one-on-one in practice yesterday. That was a lot of fun.
And we spoke to Laurel's head man, Joey Jones, about their matchup against the Firebirds. Let's listen to see what he had to say about the lack of hype around the Bulldogs.
Well, seeing that 100 players in Delaware and we didn't have any on it, I think there's a lot of guys flying under the radar, so it'll be a wait and see kind of thing. I think it's actually nice because it's proof that, you know, yes, we're a team, but individually they're not paying attention to you guys at all. So it's a good opportunity to do exactly like you said, fly under the radar, but also bring quite the pop when people finally do figure out who you are.
Now for the home team, what is the game plan for Arcadia going into tonight?
Kayla, the game plan around the Firebirds revolves entirely around their new starting quarterback, that being Carson Wallace, who hasn't even played the QB position for a full year. This time last season, the sophomore was a hard-hitting defensive back. But the Arcadia coaching staff noticed one day at practice that Wallace had an arm. And by the end of 2024, the former DB had started and won a JV game. So it will be really interesting to see if Wallace can actually translate all of this to varsity, especially running a pretty complex spread offense.
Yeah, and we also spoke to his coach, Mike Terrell, who's confident not just in Wallace, but a revamped roster much larger than last year's.
We have a really good senior group. So a senior group that's been through it all. They won a little bit, they lost, they've been through adversity, you know, coaching changes, those types of things. And then, so we'll be relying on them, especially as we go into this first game. And this year we're only carrying 3 sophomores. So my congrats on those 3 that made it. And we try to expand our rosters out to kind of match most JV and most varsity programs around. So we're sitting 35 kids at varsity and same with JV so this year.
And we asked you all who will come out victorious in this contest, and here's who you have winning this contest tonight.
Yeah, I've got to say, Caleb, this is a lot closer than I thought it'd be. Look, to be completely honest, Coach Terrell told me last night that Rivals.com projects the Firebirds to lose big, but his guys are using that as fuel, and evidently the Firebirds fans feel a lot differently about Arcadia's chances.
Now we have talked about our game of the night, everybody. When we come back, we will recap all of the other games from Week 0 Thursday night slate right after the break.
Welcome back to Down and Distance.
Welcome back, football fans, and I welcome back to the set DSN's Ian Nicholas, and we're also going to bring into the show DSN's Tyler Aiken and Darren Wallace. It is finally Football Friday. We are all looking forward to it. And now we have a chance to preview our players to watch this season, both in the Bayside and in the Henlopen conferences. Darren, let's start with you. Who are you looking forward to this year in the Bayside Conference?
Well, Kayla, I'm going to start in the backfield and actually right in our backyard here in Salisbury with running back and linebacker Kevin Thomas. Thomas isn't a name you all might be familiar with, but I think he's ready to make his name known because he contributes to winning football. Last season, the Tribe started 0-3 and Thomas only had 5 carries in those 3 games. Fast forward, one of the many factors that turned their season around was getting Thomas involved. In games where Thomas finished with 9 or more carries, the Tribe were 5-2. He didn't maybe finish with those eye-popping stats that you're looking for, but one thing you can't deny is that when they needed a W, they gave it to Thomas, so expect him to make a splash. Now, he's also an enforcer on defense. He finished with 60 tackles and 2 sacks on the year, which earned him Bayside First Team All-Conference honors. So I'm excited to catch Thomas this season for sure.
That we are too. It's a very solid choice. I like that one. A strong start to the show for our players to watch. Tyler, let's turn things over to you.
Well, Darren said his guy might make his name known, but my guy, you know his name, Stephen Decatur quarterback Johnny Hobgood is my player to watch. He was the leader on an offense that scored over 42 points per game, finished last season with 33 passing touchdowns. That's 7th in the entire state. Over 2,400 passing yards, which landed him at 6th. And guess what? Only 3 interceptions all season long, an 11-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. This guy is so talented. Now here's the issue. He lost his 5 leading wide receivers from last season, including some really talented players, Tribe Wise, David Chandler, but guess what? He is going to be so important. It doesn't matter who he's throwing the football to. He will be successful. He will prove he's even better than you thought after last season.
Stephen Decatur will always be a state title threat no matter what. They're moving up. It doesn't matter. They want the challenge. Ian, I'm going to go to you. You taking a player from Decatur? Where are you going with your player to watch this year?
Well, I got to keep you in suspense here. You all picked some great athletes, but the player to watch here that Hobgood can actually rely on, Vernon DeShields out of the backfield. DeShields rushing for nearly 900 yards and 10 tutties last season. He provided a steady attack, but defenses really had to hone in on not just Hobgood. He's proven that he's shifty, he can break yards for 65 yards. That was his longest run of last season, but he's also a bruiser as well. Good contact balance, falling forward every time that he's touching the rock.
Yeah, Stephen Decatur definitely wants to get back to that state title game. They will need him to do it. He is a fantastic player to watch. Thank you so much, Ian. But I'm taking a trip to Centerville, Maryland. I'm going Queen Anne's County, Flash Thompson. That's his nickname for a reason. Jadarian has been a fun and electric player to watch since he was a freshman. Now he will be entering his junior season with a lot to prove. Last season, he played all over the field at his natural position as a receiver. He lined up as a running back, quarterback, safety, and even return kicks. Flash is the most dangerous player in the Bayside. When he gets into an open field, we saw him take interceptions to the house. He burns secondaries, and he has a knack of turning a dead play into a score. So as long as Queen Anne's County has consistent quarterback play, Flash won't have to be the do-it-all guy. He can be everything, but also he can take a step back and do a lot of things to help the team in that conference. Now let's switch over to the Henlopen Conference side of things. There are plenty of players to choose from. Ian, I want to start with you. Who are you looking at out of Delaware for our local teams?
Kayla, it's time to talk about some defense because you know what the old adage is, defense wins championships. And this guy is a machine out of Dagsboro, linebacker Brennan Luce. Last season, Luce led the entire state in tackles, and he fell just one shy of 150. This isn't a 17-game NFL season. Not only is he technically sound, but he knows how to read his keys at the second level and shed blockers. The best part about his game, he's always around the ball. He hustles, he can hit, he's a captain of a defense that just held Odessa to 3 points last night in their season opener, because last time I checked, they scored 5 points on the game, and your defense got you the extra 2. Awesome way to start the year for Luce in IR.
Definitely is. They jump up to 2A, so we'll see how they do the rest of the season. Ian, thank you so much. Tyler, we're going to go over to your player to watch in the Henlopen Conference.
Well, I'm going to pick, probably the actual best player on the Indian River squad, Darnell Stokes Jr. from the reigning state champs, the all-state wideout. Finished 6th in the state in receiving yards, 3rd in Delaware in total touchdowns. It's safe to say he has a nose for the end zone. He is a threat from absolutely anywhere, whether it's taking a handoff from the backfield or receiving a jet sweep or even being a deep threat. Listen, I was talking to Fran Brown, the head coach at Syracuse football. He said, I want this guy on my team. He's a recruit there for a reason. He's going to be a super talented D1 player, and he's already looking strong this year, guys.
Tyler, thank you. I agree. Darnell Stokes, he is a fun player to watch. Darren, we're going to turn things over to you, your player of choice this year in the Henlopen Conference.
Well, I think the player in every Henlopen team should look out for is another Syracuse guy, like you mentioned, Phoenix Enriquez. He's a big receiver who led the state in receiving yards. Wasn't none of this top 5, top 10 stuff. He was number 1, and he's a 3-star recruit for a reason. He's a deep threat who you can trust to come down with the ball over any defender. You can say he's got Heisman 50-50 for my college football 26 players. He also led the Eagles in touchdowns, receptions, and his connection with junior quarterback Drew Marks. They will light up any defense in front of them. Smyrna will be a tough out this season, and it's going to be because Enriquez is a big part of their offense, making a lot of plays. He's going to prove why he's going to make a difference in upstate New York.
Super excited to see him in district play as well this year with the Smyrna Eagles. Now it's time for my player to watch, and you all saw him last night, and I know that you thought he was fantastic. Well, let's talk about him a little bit more. I'm going to the beach with this choice, Cape Henlopen's quarterback, Jamison Tingle, and he had a good case for it last night. 5 touchdowns in game 1 of this season. The sophomore standout from a year ago is going into his junior year with 2 years of starting experience. Last season was an up and down year for the Vikings as a team, but Tingle's play kept them in the games. 1,500 yards to go, along with 17 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions. With Coach Chip Knapp, we saw him last night, and he is one of the best offensive minds in the entire state of Delaware. Knapp, Tingle, it's going to be a deal for success this year. Now let's take a look at the few of the teams we should be taking a look at this year. Tyler, we're going to go over to you this time. Which Bayside squad are you looking forward to?
Well, I've gotten to know this team a little bit since I moved to the area, and I'm going to go with Cambridge South Dorchester, my squad to watch. And listen, it's going to be a little bit of a scheme change from last season to better utilize the talent on this offense. Last year, a lot of run-heavy offense with Anthony Heavy Hughes playing quarterback. But now Sterling Perkins back in the backfield. Majestic Jones leads the receiving group. The Vikings have an opportunity to spread things out and stay on the top of Class 1A. And there's so much talent on this team. It's really all going to come down to whether or not sophomore quarterback Nathan Twilley can take them far. But I'm high on the Vikings. And when you've got a guy like Samaj Pinder on your team, I'm confident in you. I love Samaj Pinder, and I love the CSD squad.
They will be fantastic to watch. They have that state championship from basketball that improves them on the gridiron as well. Darren, over to you this time.
Well, Kayla, my team to watch is, again, right here in Salisbury, the James M. Bennett Clippers. Just want to say, Majestic Jones, first team all name. That's a great name, by the way, Tyler. But last season, JMB played a ton of young guys, whether they got starting reps or if they rotated in. And with playing time, naturally comes experience. Bennett was a scrappy team last season. Despite what their record says, they graduated Zakai Smullins, who was their do-it-all player, but they bring back their leading tackler, Matthew Pecoraro, starting quarterback Liam Nelson, and Elijah Parks, who led the team in rushing yards as just a freshman. So you got to imagine, you take all those young guys, you give them an extra year of experience, they're going to be better than next year. The Clippers start their season off in a cross-state contest against Cesar Rodney. This is the perfect chance for those younger guys to prove that what they did last year was no fluke. They're going to build on it, come into this season determined and ready to leave their mark. Should be a fun team to watch this year, the Clippers.
I do like the team that they are coming into. They had some really fun games last year, and I can't wait to see what they can do this season and who you're picking for your team to watch.
All right, I mean, my team is the 2-time defending state champs. I mean, come on. I went off the board with Luce. I'm back on the board with the Stephen Decatur Seahawks. I got to start by saying that Decatur hasn't lost since 2022, an accomplishment that very few schools can claim. The Seahawks returned, like Tyler mentioned earlier, Johnny Hobgood threw for over 2,000 yards, scored 40 total touchdowns in 2024. And they also bring back, hey, my guy, Vernon DeShields, who is all Bayside first team, along with a plethora of talent on both sides of the ball. Now, the offense is, going to have to find its way to move and groove without Fabian Chandler and Tyree Wise on the outside catching passes, but 2-time Coach of the Year Jake Coleman, he knows how to not only rebuild, but reload, and that is exactly what Stephen Decatur is going to do this year.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see how this team shapes out. Jake Coleman is one of the top coaches in the Bayside Conference in the state of Maryland. It is a different year for them, but hey, we will see what they can do moving up a class as well. Now, my team to watch will be the only Bayside squad that gave Stephen Decatur a run for their money last year. Darren, you mentioned Kevin Thomas. I couldn't agree more. His impact will be felt this season, but it's not just him who will be the X factor for the Y-High Tribe. They will be returning Landon Roach, who took over the starting quarterback position halfway through the season and elevated the team's level of play. They're returning a ton of starters on offense, as well as players who have received playing time. Now, they will have to trust in some of the young guys on defense, since they are only returning 4 of their starters on the defensive side of the ball. But head coach Matt McMurdo, he prides himself on the defensive side of the ball. That culture, next man up mentality, it is there for the Y-High Tribe. I'm looking forward to it to see, and they might want to have the defensive game plans in the South Division. Now we're going to switch over to the Henlopen Conference. There are plenty of teams to choose from. We talked about our players to watch. Ian, where are you going with this team? It will be me. Actually, we'll go to you later, Ian. The Smyrna Eagles is my team that I am going to pick. Better than what their record indicates, despite finishing below 500 in the past 2 seasons. They were able to win the 3A District 3 title, and that's because of players like Phoenix Enriquez, Kamaj Kearney, and Drew Mark. Smyrna is also returning over half of their starters on both sides of the ball. There is a chance for them to not only win the district for another season, but they can make it to the state title game for the first time since they won it back in 2022. Ian, I got ahead of myself. I'm going to pass it over to you now, your team to watch.
I appreciate you sharing the rock. You know what, Kayla? I'm going to go a little bit south of Smyrna. The team from Woodside, the Polytech Panthers. You know what? Polytech has just been on the rise the past 2 years, making the DIAA state semis both times. Now, though, Polytech graduated 22 seniors. I think they can reload. They bring back players who saw some time, like quarterback Aleem Edwards. He was able to keep the ship afloat last season, while their starter, Isaac Balsarak, missed time due to injury. The Panthers have a 1A schedule in the first half of their season. This is going to change for the young team, build some confidence, get grooving before they face a couple of those 2A squads in their district on the back half of their schedule. But I think, hey, throughout September, they're going to be a team to watch out for.
The Panthers, definitely a team full of surprises. I can't wait to see how they look. They're jumping up to 2A, but as you alluded to, that schedule very similar to what we saw last year from Polytech. Tyler, let's turn things over to you.
Well, I really have to go with the Henlopen North here because I'm really high on the Cape Henlopen Vikings this year. The Vikings have one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, Jamison Tingle. You know him, you love him. He's coming back for his junior year. He's got one of his best options in Amari Jackson. Trey Batson's there as well. Dell Richards, they all contributed greatly last season, and they returned 8 starters on defense. We know Mike Frederick stepped down, but Chip Knapp is a head coach who's a proven winner in the state of Delaware. He took over to the state title game earlier this decade, and I have to be honest, I was watching the documentary all spring, Into the Trenches, fell in love with this Vikings team, and I just can't pick against them. I have to take Cape.
You mean a documentary, right?
Documentary. That's whatever.
33 points last night on offense, only giving up 3 on defense. That's what stuck out to me. Coach Knapp has this team ready to go. But last but not least, Darren, your team to watch. Say the best for last, possibly?
Thank you, Kayla. Yes, you all made great choices, I cannot lie, but I'm also going to stay in the Henlopen North with my choice, and the team that I want to watch this year, the Sussex Central Golden Knights. Head coach John Wells told us earlier this preseason that this is not, I repeat, not a rebuilding year. This is a retooling year. Yes, they graduated the leading rusher in the state in Malik Bell and the leading tackler in Sam Pucci and a ton of other seniors from last year's state semifinal team. Wells said it's the most seniors they've ever graduated, actually, but the wealth of young talent on this team, guys who are ready for the challenge of varsity football, and they bring back that back half of their defensive starters along with 4-year starter Will Harmon, who rushed for nearly 1,000 yards last season. As long as Wells is the man in charge, Sussex Central will be a tough team to beat. That's why I have them as my team to watch. And I know you guys have been mentioning a lot of senior-laden teams, veteran teams. Those Golden Knights aren't going anywhere.
That they are not. Sussex Central is always a team to compete. Thank you, Darren. And that is all we have for this segment. Make sure you stick around because when we return, we will recap all the action from Week 0's Thursday night games. You won't want to miss it.
Welcome back to Down and Distance.
Welcome back, football fans. Yesterday's slate of games kicked off a very exciting weekend for football. Now we'll recap all the action from both Delaware and Virginia. We're going to start with Odessa at Indian River.
The Indians started off the game with special teams miscues that led to a 5-0 deficit, but that wouldn't last long. IR scored 46 unanswered points behind the playmaking skills of Darnell Stokes, the hard-nosed running from Devon Handy, and of course, a shutdown defense. IR defeated Odessa 46-5. They showed that they are prepared to take on the challenge of playing a 2A schedule.
We now head up to Camden, where Caesar Rodney hosted the Woodbridge Blue Raiders in a 3A-2A matchup. And this game was a shocker, to say the least. The Riders started off this contest with a bang, blocking a field goal attempt and returning for a score. Scoring on a pick 6, the Riders showed that they are not the same team from last season. They were able to shut out the Blue Raiders completely and pick up the 24-0 victory.
And now let's head to the game of the night. Cape Henlopen took on St. Mark's for another 3A-2A battle. and the Vikings were led by quarterback Jamison Tingle, who put the team on his back in terms of scoring, finished with 5 total touchdowns, 3 through the air, 2 on the ground, and the Vikings defense was just all over the Spartans. Cape Henlopen came out with a dominant 33-3 victory over St. Mark's.
And now for our final game, we feature another cross-conference battle. Del Mar took the trip up to Wilmington for this matchup against Delaware Military Academy. This game is important for the Wildcats because last season they went 9-1 in the regular season, and that lone loss was against DMA. But this contest would be no different. The Seahawks were in full control of this game from start to finish, and they went on to win 31-8.
And now let's head down to Virginia, where Rappahannock defeated Nandua 65-27. This makes it the second year in a row the Raiders won their season opener against the Warriors. Nandua has a bye week next week before taking the trip up to Worcester County to take on Snow Hill the week after.
And we'll stay in the Old Dominion State for this contest. Broadwater Academy defeated Chincoteague 38-29 to win their first game of the season. The Ponies fall to 1-1 on the year. They look to rebound against Blessed Sacrament next Friday. Those are all of the scores and the games that took place yesterday. Stick around because when we come back, we will preview our power rankings. You will not want to miss it. It is time, football fans, but before we get into our DSN preseason power rankings, let's explain what factors into these rankings going into the year. A team is power rated based on 3 factors. The first is last season's record. The second is returning production value, meaning how many starters and rotation players from last season are returning for this year. The third is major changes such as coaching changes, class changes for Delaware schools, and play style changes. And for an important note, any games played during week 0 in Delaware will not be considered for these rankings, but will be counted towards next week's DSN rankings. Now let's get to the fun part, everybody. Coming in at number 5 going into this season, we have this team that finished our rankings in the same spot a year ago. It's the Y-High Tribe.
Yes, Kayla, the Tribe finished last season on a positive note. Although they wrapped up their season with a 5-6 record, they were surprisingly the team that nobody wanted to face when they entered the playoffs. They upset a Queen Anne's team in the first round that shut them out earlier in the year, and it took Vanderbilt star David Chandler putting on a Herculean effort to squeak by the Tribe in a game that finished with a score of 19-14. They're bringing back a ton of offensive experience and can be a team no one wants to face this season. They ended last year playing their best ball. They hope to continue that into this season.
That they do. I'm looking forward to see how the Y-High Tribe performs this year. Moving on to number 4, it is going to be the team of the Easton Warriors.
Yes, those Easton Warriors were a one-man band last year, it seemed, with Mikey O'Connor as the signal caller on offense. This year, they bring back all but 3 offensive starters, plus they're one of the only teams in the Bayside to bring back at least 10 starters on defense. But the big question mark is at the quarterback position. Who will step up to lead this experienced team this season? Something that needs to be answered with relative quickness, Kate.
All I'm going to say is that the O'Connors do have a younger brother coming into the system. So I'm not predicting anything here, but you never know. We could possibly see it. Now just above them at number 3, it is those Cambridge South Dorchester Vikings.
Yes, who else but CSD? They finished last year undefeated in the regular season, earning the number 1 seed in all of the Class 1A state tournament. They do return less starters on both sides of the ball, but they return star running back Sterling Perkins and standout wide receiver Majestic Jones. Great name, by the way. They also have a big question mark at QB after graduating Anthony Hughes, but sophomore Nathan Twilley did throw the first touchdown pass of the year last season. CSD will be dangerous, and I mean, it's kind of been a foregone conclusion at this point, just how good they'll be every year.
That they will. I'm excited to see what CSD can bring. Now coming in at number 2 behind me, those Queen Anne's County Lions.
Yes, the Lions. It's also, they're in a good position this year in terms of returning production value. That's what stood out to us this year. Out of all their defensive starters, they bring back the most dynamic player in the Bayside in Jadarion Flash Thompson, who will only be a junior this year. So we got 2 more years of this guy. They're also looking really good on offense this year with a majority of the O-line coming back, but they will have to replace John Connolly, who finished 5th in all of Maryland Class 2A in rushing yards. They will be an electric team to watch this season. Can't miss out on them.
You cannot, but our #1 team of the year, it's obvious. It's those state champions in the Stephen Decatur Seahawks.
Yes, Stephen Decatur is and has been the best team in the Bayside and in Class 2A for 2 years now. They haven't lost a football game in almost 3 calendar years, and it was in the state semifinals, Kayla. Now they've graduated Vanderbilt star David Chandler and Georgetown commit Tribe Wise, and they aren't bringing back the most depth on both sides of the ball, but they are bringing back All-State quarterback Johnny Hobgood along with defensive end Seamus Orth to rush the passer. Decatur will be a tough team to face in the regular season for any team in the Bayside. They're just one of those teams. They're inevitable, and I would hate to be on the other side of it this year.
That I would be too. Now let's take a look at the top 5 rankings. You can see it right here. Y-High, Easton, CSD, QAC, Decatur on top in that order. Moving on, we're going to switch over to the Henlopen Conference. Let's take a look. Coming in at number 5 here today, it's going to be those Sussex Central Golden Knights.
Yes, the Golden Knights. They are a hard-nosed, well-coached football team with John Wells leading the way, which gives them the edge here in the top 5. They're only returning 2 offensive starters, with halfback Will Harmon being one of them, a 4-year starter at that. As for the defensive side of the ball, Golden Knights are bringing back 6 of 11, with most returners coming on the back end in the secondary. Graduating the leading rusher in the state of Delaware and Malik Bell. Not easy to replace. He finished with over 2,100 yards on the ground. So Will Harmon will have to be the next man up for Central if they want to compete. But Coach Wells says he's one guy that can get the job done.
That he is. Coming in just above them, though, at number 4, it's those Lake Forest Spartans. I'm excited to see them this year.
Yes, Lake Forest was a tough team to face last year. They will be this year, too. They were in contention for the Class 2A district title and were competitive against 3A teams. They graduated their leading rusher, Aiden Young, and star athlete Darius Miller on the offensive side of the ball, but they do bring back a ton of skill talent like Demarion Russ, Andrew White, and leading tackler Ian Nance, who can keep this team competitive in a difficult district. They were tough last year, expect them to be even tougher in 2025.
Moving on to number 3, we saw them that last night. This game does not count in the rankings from week 0. It will next week, but it is those Cape Henlopen Vikings.
Yes, the Vikings are in a unique situation where they only return 1 starter on the offensive line, but it won't matter because of the talent that they return elsewhere. Jamison Tingle will enter his junior year and he'll have tons of weapons to throw the ball to, and Amari Jackson and Trey Batson. But the defense will be returning 8 starters, including Cordell Richards, who finished 2nd on the team in tackles and 1st in sacks. But the biggest addition was the hiring of Chip Knapp. He is a proven winner in Delaware, going 25-12 and making a state title game during his tenure at Dover. New coach, same old Vikings this year.
That it is. I think they may even take a step up with some of their players really being a season older. Not necessarily all seniors, but they have an opportunity in a lot of different skills positions to be successful. Moving on, though, to number 2, it's the state champs in the Indian River Indians.
Yes, this may shock some of you fans in Delaware, but Indian River being this high is justified by the fact that they return all but 3 starters on both sides of the ball. They graduated their star athlete in Javion Chandler, but they return All-State wideout and Syracuse commit Darnell Stokes. Quarterback Dylan Grice, who finished 5th in the state in passing yards, and running back Devon Handy, who was 2nd on the team in rushing yards and touchdowns. The big concern, though, is the jump up to Class 2A, but they have the depth, they have the experience with a team full of leaders who may see this as an opportunity to win back-to-back state titles, even in a tougher conference level. And IR, we saw them yesterday, how dominant they look. I don't see why they can't get the job done.
And they don't have Caravel to beat anymore because Caravel got bumped up as well. So definitely a chance to be successful. But our top spot, I know this will make some fans happy watching this. It's those Smyrna Eagles.
Yes, the Eagles, as always, they'll have their work cut out for them this season in terms of scheduling, but that does not take away from the talent that this team is bringing back. We can't talk about Smyrna without mentioning their stud at quarterback, Drew Marks, who finished second in the entire state in passing yards. He'll be joined by Syracuse commit at wide receiver Phoenix Enriquez, and he'll have Kamaj Kearney, who has an Old Dominion offer in the backfield. Smyrna brings back a wealth of players who either started and or rotated in and made plays all over the field, Kayla. They are the reigning Class 3A District 2 champs for a reason, and it's their position to lose. It'll be a tough schedule for them this year, but no shortage of talent on that team. They should have success regardless.
That they should. Thank you so much, Darren. Let's take a look at the full top 5 standings for the Henlopen, along with each team's record at the end of the regular season. You can find the rest of the top 10 rankings on our social media channels at Delmarva Sports, and a full list on our website at DelmarvaSportsNetwork.com. Well, that's all the time we have on this edition of Down and Distance. Remember, if your team wasn't mentioned and you want to find out where they stand in the DSN Power Rankings, you can find the full standings on our social media page at Delmarva Sports. Don't forget to join us tonight on The Final Score, 11 p.m. for highlights and recaps of all the action around the peninsula.